And opinions you are about to hear are of the hosts and do not reflect the management of CaveRadioBroadcasting.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole. Today is Thursday, June 30th, year of Lord 2016. You're listening to a Agenda Pop Media production. I'm Howard. I'm joined by some friends here. We got Kenny. We have what's your name, pal?
Trey.
Hey, Trey.
It's a good friend of mine.
Nice.
I literally just met these guys like 5 seconds ago.
Nice. Well, welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole.
That's how we roll here.
We're going to get into some current events and some stuff, so feel free to pipe in at any time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Kenny, how you doing, buddy?
I'm all right.
Good. Dave brought a friend with him. Why don't you tell us who
Today,
you brought?
Photos here.
Definitely handsoming up the place a bit. What's up, Photo?
What's up, guys?
Yeah. Is his mic on? Now it is.
Now it is.
What's up, guys?
There you go.
Same old.
So he's recently taken an interest in the show. Unfortunately for him,
Poor
I think.
guy.
Yeah. He actually has done more than I. He's actually went and listened to almost, if not all of them, every podcast we put up. So he's up to speed, dude.
I only listen to the ones with me on it.
Well, that's because you're a narcissist. But aside from that, yeah, man, he's kind of started looking around and searching and reading.
This is exciting because that's exactly what we're here to do.
That's right.
We're looking at the fruit of our labor. That's awesome.
I chalk this up
as
a trophy on the shelf right now. So, and I know I'm not supposed to do that, but you know what?
In this world, we got to take a win where we can get it, right?
I'm going to. So yeah. So right on.
Nice. Yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, I remember as we were assembling our troops. You know, you get one. It starts out with one, and then there's two, and then there's three, and then there's four, and now there's 7 or 8. You know, and it's always exciting when someone new comes on board and is like, oh, wow, yeah I get it. Because then you get their perspectives on top of your perspectives, and the more of us there are that are talking about these things, I honestly think the quicker we uncover what we're trying to uncover.
Yeah, or either that, or we get our names on the new secret list that they're compiling, and we can't go anywhere or buy guns. So whatever, man.
I'm on so many lists already.
Yeah,
you know?
whatever.
I'm surprised they let me fly anywhere.
Just give it time, dude.
Yeah,
Give it time, because then what'll happen is they'll say, oh, sorry, sir, you need to come with us, and then your name's on a list. You don't know why, and they don't have to tell you why. You have to prove that you're not supposed to be on this list that you didn't know about. So, I guess blow the bugle for due process.
There you go. That's what it's all about. At least the guise of due process.
Well,
right?
At least, the facade is
due process would lead you to believe that something happens in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
That's very non-governmental.
Well, it actually is a process, but apparently...
yeah, right.
Apparently all you have to do these days is sit, crisscross applesauce like a bunch of freaking children, and you can go ahead and delete constitutional rights. So that's awesome. Party
on. We can do an entire show on crisscross applesauce. I remember the first time I heard it, I'm like, what are you talking about? What were you doing?
Yeah, what is that exactly?
Crisscross applesauce, Dad.
You can't say...
He sits down, it's like...
Wait, you can't say it. You can't say Indian style anymore.
Wow.
Because that is racist.
So offensive.
I still say it at my house, but I have Indian friends, so I can say that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Both Native American and from India?
Both, actually, yeah. Actually, I have family that's Native American, so I can say whatever I want.
You are so well-rounded.
And I'm Sicilian.
Get them up the same bar.
I'm Sicilian, so I can make black jokes, too.
Awesome.
Nice. It's awesome.
Because Christopher Walken told us where they come from.
The meaning of freedom for me is different than most people, so.
I'm with you. So, Turkey, what's up?
You know what's up, dude. You know what's up.
Is there going to be a new one every week, you think?
There is, because we don't hear about most of them, but... what's going on over there is no shock to me whatsoever. What I find interesting about it now, and I don't really read deeply about it anymore because I already know it's coming and more is coming. No question about this. It's their response all of a sudden now. Looks like Turkey and ISIS are going to war. So this is interesting to me because the media will report that ISIS is nothing. Right. They're not a nation. Right. They're not anything, not legitimate, but yet another nation can go to war with this thing that's not real. And so whatever, it's clear as day to me what's going on, but it's still this narrative about, well, radical this and don't say that. And now John Kerry says dash these days,
Right.
following the French lead on this one, which they're the experts on foreign policy. And
The
national
French.
security. The French.
The
yes.
French.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
French.
Mhm.
So we'll
Yeah.
follow their lead.
That's who I'm going to take the lead from. Whenever there's a war, I want to know how the French are going to fight it.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I was in the army, so
Okay.
All right, so
So you probably had to liberate France at one point or another.
yeah, I will say that some French soldiers that I actually met in Afghanistan were very rude.
Yeah, how's their hygiene?
you notice my jaw didn't hit the table. so-
Well, I can't say that I actually had my nostrils up close
Yeah,
to the
okay.
man, but
well, he was in the Middle East, right?
yeah, well,
Oh,
so
right.
I mean, the whole country
Well,
kind of
we
it just
really
throws
did
So
on your
after a
senses.
while, it's what do they call that? Where it's like with chemical exposure.
Nose blind.
You only
Nose
smell it
blind,
for a
yeah.
minute, and then the smell you get used to it. So whatever. That I'm sorry, that was way offensive.
Oh,
Even for me.
We really got off track on that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, the other thing I heard on the radio that was really bugging me was the new Benghazi report that came out.
Dude, hold on, I gotta puke really fast because I can't believe the audacity of the people who are ultimately responsible for this and will just sit there and say things like you would say if you cheated on your wife and then you guys reconciled, but she kept bringing it up, which she would have every right to do.
Right.
And then you just say, you know what? I think it's just time that we
Yeah.
just move on and leave this behind us.
Yeah.
BS, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have my own theory, personal conjecture of what that was all about, but now with the report that came out and how ultimately damning this is.
Yeah, there was
It's crazy.
I believe he was a senator from Ohio, but I don't remember his name, on a radio program I heard yesterday. He was talking about it. And of all the stuff, I mean, we've heard it all. We know what went on. They're just not going to hold anybody responsible for their actions. Okay, which is the way this country has gone in the last 50 or so years. We do what we want, and there's no real responsibility. We've got everybody else is to blame for our bad behavior. And the part that bothered me the most is they were 3 hours in to a 7-hour battle. Okay, several battles happened during this. By the end of it, the end of it was worse than the beginning of it, and by the end, 4 Americans gave their lives. Okay, and the part that bothers me the most is 3 hours in, they convened a meeting. There were representatives of all the higher-ups in the government. Hillary Clinton was at the meeting, and I do not honestly remember. I believe that Barack Obama was not there.
Probably not.
But obviously people representing him were there.
Yeah, he was too busy sucking at golf.
And the topic of the meeting, they spent the largest part of the meeting, by the minutes of the meeting, trying to talk about how to spin the video to make that be the cause of this,
Still.
rather than how do we get our people out.
That's disgusting.
Wow.
But not shocking. Because
I mean, I understand we have different political ideology, okay? I don't agree with much of the liberal agenda. We want different things out of our country. We want different things out of our family, out of our lives. But they're supposedly human beings.
no, actually, I don't necessarily subscribe to that. That these people are probably not completely human, but
And maybe
That's-
you're right, dude. I guess I'm still a little naive.
well, no, I mean it's like you see what they're, and you can't. I don't group everyone. Like when someone says, I voted for Barack Obama, like I don't get mad at them because, especially if they're young, because
No.
it's like they haven't become jaded yet because they got screwed.
Right.
Right, you know what I'm saying? And well, as soon as that happens,
And
then
it was
you,
probably bad parenting why they voted
well,
for Obama.
but I don't necessarily think that every sect of supporters of these people are in on what they're really up to, right? So they think that what they're doing is good for the greater good and all these crazy stuff
Right,
they're
they
peddling.
believe it. They believe it.
Are we good, Kenny?
Oh, Hooper's here. Hi, Dave.
Sorry,
Welcome,
I'm late.
Dave.
It's all right, man.
I've been getting really late lately.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's better late than never.
That's right.
Usually.
Usually. My sister's in town, which means it's party week. So,
Oh, right on. Cool.
and my body just can't do it like it used to?
No, I was going to tell you that, but you're
So when
finding
it's-
out. So
she's from out west, so when it's 4 a.m. here, that's only 1 a.m.
Yeah,
her
she's ready
time.
to rip.
That's like that's
Yeah.
like go time.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. I do most of my partying on Wednesday at 1 a.m.
Well,
It's a lot easier when you don't have kids.
when you're partying, actively. But so anyway, yeah. I mean, what they're up to is pure evil. They can be simplified. This can be boiled
Yeah,
down.
I guess
to the
that's
simplest
the
thing.
part. That's the part that I am not used to yet. Okay, in where we're at on what we've learned about things, and the type of things that we're uncovering and the type of things that we're researching. I guess I'm just not there yet because I'm still happy-go-lucky, naive guy who thinks, oh, well, people are all predominantly good and they want good things, and it's just not that way.
That's just not the case, dude. In fact, to make it simpler in my mind, anyway, if you just take, use this moniker, right? This liberal agenda. If you replace liberal with satanic, boy, does it make sense. It's the satanic agenda. That's really what we're dealing with here.
Yeah,
No doubt about it. 100%. That's what this is. And every little piece, when they spun this video story to make sure that it wasn't a mistake, right, politically, that Gaddafi got pulled out of there, which was obviously a mistake.
right.
And everything they do is a mistake. But this is for something else that maybe we aren't even aware of yet, but they sure are. They're sure aware of what they're up to. And we only find out when all of that stuff rolls downhill. And then it's
the best part, I really don't think we would have the type of awareness and information on Benghazi that we have if it wasn't for the courage of the survivors to tell the story. The guys who stood up and said, you know what, my buddies are not going to die for nothing. You need to know what happened.
Right.
Oh, we're talking Benghazi?
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
kind of bouncing around, but that's...
Yeah, the end. That was the final element left of SEAL Team 6. So let's understand the deeper motivation behind
Yeah,
it.
like I said, these things are, we look at it at face value on the surface, but really, this, just like we talk about all the time, things were put in motion thousands of years ago that are just now manifesting, right? So what they're doing, we can kind of piece it together and speculate, right? But what's really going on here is much deeper, and we can only guess at what, they're currently up to. But we know what the end game is here. We
Right.
know. So for us, it should be.
And that's all part of it is there's so
Yeah.
many subplots and so many diversions that are going on, you lose track of the end game. And what you need to focus on is what is the real agenda.
Just read through it, man. Look right
Because
through
you
that
can easily
garbage.
make a right turn for a couple of years researching one thing or the other when reality's smacking you in the face.
Yeah, you
Let
can
me play devil's advocate. How do you know? How do you know what the end is, and why are you so secure about it?
How do I know it? Because I believe that what's written in the Bible is God's word for sure, and that there's no he knows there's no questioning this stuff. So it's a little bit of a matter of faith, right? We don't have empirical quote unquote evidence for a lot of these things, but a lot of it we do, and it's ignored mostly, right? But we try to bring it up here, but deep down inside, I know that is the only real truth that we need to focus on. Everything else is either a distraction or, we could, like, you see it all the time with how many dozens of radio shows are there that just sit there and bounce back and forth, Republican, Democrat, right wing, left wing, all the politics of everything. And what they're missing, all of them are missing what's really behind all of this. And no one will say it. No one will say it. They talk about Al-Qaeda and Al-Iransi or whatever. I don't even justify them with pronouncing it correctly. And all these counterfeit, things.
Well, they won't even call it the Islamic State.
Well, no,
because
they
don't want to. They don't want to.
It's-
I mean, no one wants to admit that there might be a link between Islam and violence.
Well, but we
they call
know-
it IS.
Yeah, but and they even go, like I said, they go even further now and use the actual term, Daesh or Daesh. And I don't even care because what essentially what we're talking about is all of these groups are exactly the same thing. They're all connected, whether they know it or not. They are connected. And who's the general? Who's the guy pushing the buttons? Who's the guy giving the orders ultimately? You can track down all the leaders of ISIS and all the leaders of Al-Qaeda and all the leaders of all these stupid groups that pop up. But in the end, We already know who the guy in charge is. And there's really only one way to defeat this guy, isn't there?
Well, the thing is, he's already defeated.
But I mean, right now, there's only one way. Okay, maybe not defeat, but protect yourself
See, it was
from.
statements like that frankly used to piss me off. Because what does that mean? He's already defeated. Now, I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
I
right.
know what you mean. But it doesn't feel like this guy is defeated. In fact, it feels like he's on the brink of complete world domination.
Sure. And he may get right there.
Well, he's actually going to get it
You know what
for
I mean?
a few years.
Exactly.
It's going to happen.
So if it just seems so simple that if they just focused on that and talked about that, right? But this is funny because you'll have syndicated shows that will dance all around this, all around it. And they won't ever just come out and say it. And then you got a show like this where, I don't know, maybe your wife is listening. And Photo's wife's listening, right? And maybe, I don't know if your mom or, you know what I mean? But we'll just call it out for what it is. And honestly, based on biblical truth, we're right. We're calling it for what it really is. And until someone, that it's all being blocked like we talk about all the time. So we already know who's behind this.
But what was the change that happened in you where you went from wondering to knowing? Because when you come out and start saying things like devil and evil and Satan and Bible, a lot of people, you get a lot of shut off.
Sure.
You get a lot of, immediate dismissal, which is it's sort of a pre-programmed condition that we all have, but we don't understand it. Talking about it's not an easy way to go. So I want to find out, what was the change that happened? What was the day when you're like, I need to talk about this, or I know this so...
I do understand your question, but I don't know if there's a definitive answer that's just like, it was
it
this
happens
day.
slowly.
Because it's been an ongoing process for quite a number of years. But there really was one thing that happened that and I can put my finger on one event, and it was a dream I had on Christmas right after my brother died. And I know...
The one where you guys were in the car?
I was in the car, which wasn't really a car. But
Right.
It's,
but that's the same dream.
That was so incredibly real and actually affected me physically to where I never really fully recovered from it, even to almost 2 years later. I mean, I couldn't move for 2 days. I stayed on the couch. It was insane. It was totally crazy. And I knew at that point that what I was dealing with here, and already kind of believed, but it was in passing, right? Go to church once in a while. I didn't really read the Bible and whatever. It was just, I just kind of following my wife's lead on stuff. That was when I really knew that it was jerking me into paying attention. And since that day, everything has been different since. And there's no way to go back to before that.
Oh, I've tried.
There's no way.
I've tried to forget it. I've tried to...
You've been trying this week, right?
What's that?
You've been trying that a bit this week.
It's not trying. I'm done trying to forget. I would tune out for months at a time.
This happens
where
still.
I was just like, okay, I can't. I'm just going to forget all this. I'm going back into the business world. I'm going to be back in the world. I know that place real well. And I'd start to do it for a month, and then this thing would be eating away at me, just going in a veiled sort of way. I was living a lie. I know that this is so unimportant because I know that there's now something bigger, whether I want to realize it or not. That's just the world we were born into. It we were born into this.
Right.
Yeah,
this
we
really
were.
is a galactic war for real.
It's cosmic,
fascinating,
and spiritual in nature, and when you said stuff when you say you talk about it and people just deny and walk away, some people may even stop talking to you because they think you quote unquote lost your mind. Well, this is also written about pretty clearly that the whole world is going to eventually, if you live long enough, you're alive at the right time, the whole world is going to hate you for what you believe. So it shouldn't be surprising to any of us that people will turn you off. People go, oh boy, roll their eyes. Dave, geez, he fell off the deep end. Lost his brother, couldn't deal with it, and now he's this churchy Bible thumper guy. But essentially,
Who drives a sweet ass Harley parked out back.
Thank you very much. And
is that your bike photo that's out there?
It is my bike.
Because that's the one that got the one in back. Someone backed into it, tipped it over.
Oh, that's real funny. That's hilarious.
I found out Harley guys don't. This dude came. We're at Micknose a few weeks ago. This guy rolls up in just a gorgeous Harley. He's all super careful. He's the kind of guy that as he's walking away, he sees something and rubs his gets his tongue wet and rubs out a
Yeah.
little
Little grandma
dot on it.
spit.
So we're out there on a cigarette break, and we walk back inside, and right within earshot of this guy, as a joke, because I'd seen him there a few times, I'm telling my friend that, can you believe someone just backed into that beautiful Harley and tipped it over?
Oh, dude,
and the
terrible.
guy was like, "Are you effing kidding me?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're just kidding, dude."
That'd
He's
be
like,
real
"Oh,
funny.
God,
The guy
you
had an
scared the shit."
aneurysm right on the spot, poof, and just fell over dead. Like, dude, I was kidding. That was just a joke.
But I guess we get a bike out of it, though.
But what might be interesting, I'll put him on a spot actually, so he can.
yeah, let's
he-
get
he
photo
can,
talking.
He can yell at
here.
me later about
And
it.
who else do we have here?
Trey.
Trey. Hey, Trey.
Trey's from
I'm
the
Dave.
show before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hanging with
He's
PDK.
he's buddies with Kenny.
All right, Kenny.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so Kenny's bringing friends to
I
the
think
party
Kenny
now.
got a haircut, too.
Did he? I think he just
Ever?
opened his hat up.
His hat is down lower
Yeah.
than
Kenny
normal.
talks a lot for a radio
yeah,
guy.
you gotta shut up.
You
man.
can't
Yeah.
shut him up. He robs the money.
If there's
Sorry.
one thing that kills your career, it's that right there. It's just the mouth just will not stop talking.
So what I wanted to do, since you got on this topic, and it's interesting that you did because I wasn't sure how to actually get into it, but you did it for me, so thanks, Dave. We were talking recently, Photo and I, and he mentioned something about he told me kind of a story about he bought a Bible, has been reading it.
Yeah, I was going to ask,
So,
tell me about your week. But
That is what I want to ask Photo, since we're sitting here, and to tell everybody, like, why. Now, he's not jumping in pool water yet. I'm not, he's looking around, right?
So we
but
got a
there
couple
was-
months, right?
But there was something, something must have
I
happened
would get it done before.
that
like,
prompted him
November.
to go buy a Bible and start reading it and find study guides how to read it the proper way. Like, these things, people don't just do this. Like, he's not writing a book report for high school. I mean, he's my age, so he's busy. He's got kids, and he's married, works, but he's taking time to go buy a Bible, number one, and read it.
Well, why don't you catch us up a little bit on how you got here? Well, tell us what's been going on the last week or two.
It kind of starts with what Dave was just talking about, how, with what happened with his brother, and, all three of us, we've known each other for, 20 some odd years. And, just listening to him and hanging out with him and talking and, and then we, and at first it kind of, me and the wife were sitting there talking, and it was kind of that, well, what's going on with Dave? He's, jumping into that pool or whatever.
This was
you wanna
after
call
your
it.
bro was killed?
Yeah, and I was getting baptized.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and all that
Church
kind of happened, and we're talking to him, hanging out in the garage, doing whatever, a few cocktails and whatnot, and we're listening to him. Then he'd leave, and then me and the wife would talk. And at first, it was kind of like, wow, it's kind of weird, But then you start thinking about it, and he's giving me stuff to just kind of look at. And then within the last month or so, I had some time, and I watched the movie, and that kind of
Which
your movie.
I think I know. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
And that kind of
That's The Anatomy of a Great Deception.
Yes,
It's online
that's-
for free. So,
oh yeah, that's where I saw it, YouTube. So, but then that kind of opened it up, and I mean, I had the Bible before that. Just like I say, from talking to Dave, it's like that maybe there is something to this, And I was kind of like Dave growing up. As a kid, we went to church every Sunday. And then when I became an adult and got into the workforce, and it just kind of was on the back burner. I didn't really go into it a lot. We didn't go to church a whole lot on the holidays. Go with my dad on Easter, Christmas for service, and it would just, I don't know. It just kind of just.
Well,
listening
let's
to
back
him
up
and-
a little bit because it's a long leap still to go from 9/11 to the Bible and God. Like, it took me a while just to figure out how to even put that into words. Now, when you and I first met, you had questions about 9/11. I mean, there was some. You work with metals, if I remember
Yeah, I'm an
correctly.
iron worker.
Okay.
Yes, I build those types of buildings.
And I remember you saying that there's something weird, but so you had some questions, but it's not like it's like something hadn't like grabbed you yet. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it was. Like you say, you watch the stuff, the shows on A&E or whatever, that they're feeding you, and it just, some of it didn't seem right to me.
What did you think you were gonna? Did you think you were gonna watch something and go, "Oh, okay, I see, this guy's nuts," and I see these theories are all crazy? Or did you think you were gonna?
Well, I went into it open-minded. I wanted to just watch and start looking at stuff and make my own opinions on it, not just follow Dave or or Howard or some of these guys that I've recently met, and we hang out from time to time. And I wasn't just going to jump right in, but I started just researching stuff and had a little bit of time here, a little look up stuff, see what I can find, and then I started reading the Bible just to maybe refresh myself, because as a youth going to church, I don't think I ever really read the whole Bible.
Right.
Parts here, parts there. The main stories that everybody knows. The Noah and
I was the same
Moses and stuff
Same
like that.
here.
But I don't know the in between parts. So it was just to kind of refresh myself, learn some new stuff about it, and my family is really religious. My grandparents, they're my grandmother is. She's got some wild. Well, I don't know if they're they're not really wild. It's just her belief.
Yeah, nothing's wild in this room.
Right? Yeah.
And what's her nickname?
It's Hallelujah March.
Right on.
Is my grandmother's name. And I was actually telling Dave, we were just down there back in spring break down in Florida, where they've been for the last 30 years, and she came right out and told me that she's 91, 92 years old.
You're the friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I just heard a story from
Yeah.
someone whose 90-something-year-old grandmother doesn't even believe she's going to die.
Yeah, this is
And that's
correct.
actually, it's biblical, because there's going to be a generation, the people that believe in Jesus Christ are, if you understand the prophecy, are going to get sucked out of here in what some people call the rapture. It was written as the harpazo.
That's her belief.
So she thinks this sucker's imminent.
Yeah. Less
if
than
she's
5 years,
if
obviously.
she's 91, that means it's coming soon. If she come right out and told me I'm not going to die, I'm just going to go up, and I kind of looked at her, and and that kind of started it too. Just all of the stuff, and then listening to you guys and seeing what's going on in the world.
See, I don't think these are coincidences.
No way.
No way.
This is your grandmother?
Yes.
So your grandmother says this, and this is how I think God might operate. So if she's, and it's hard to even understand how the spirit world interfaces with the physical world. It's a hard one to get around. I don't want to get off topic, but I do believe we've all got some sort of spirits inside of us, whether they're the spirits from upstairs, the Holy Spirit, or you've got if you have your spirit guides, for instance, that's not good.
Right.
If you've got, there are a lot of people access the spirit world, but they don't know they're accessing it through the dark side of it. Nonetheless, so the way I think this works is a thought's put into your grandma's head, and it turns into a story. Which now all I remembered was the story. I didn't even know it was from you. In fact, I was about to go to you. I've got a friend with a 91-year-old
No, it's
grandmother.
him.
And you'd be like, oh, dude,
That's
that's my
me,
grandmother.
yeah.
I'd be like, then how the hell did I learn that?
Yeah, because I told you the story.
And now we're talking about that story on air, and this is now whatever thought came into her head will over time be listened to now by thousands upon thousands of people that will end up watching this or listening to this in some way. And those aren't accidents for me anymore. Like I used to think they were. They're not.
No.
So she thinks she's going to get.
Yeah, she's just going to go right up. She's not going into the ground, nothing. It's just going to happen. And like Dave was saying, it's, she's 91. That means it's got to happen pretty soon. She's already, lifespan, she's already beyond what the lifespan of people is. And she gets around. She's, my grandfather still drives, and he's 92, and they get around. They go to church probably 4 times a week, go out to dinner, go around the neighborhood and walking. It's amazing to see them at the age they are.
Well, that bodes well for you.
Well, I got my vices that.
If Grandma's going upstairs,
Yeah.
he's not going to even.
Well,
he'll never need to see his.
That's what I
90s.
joked with her. I was talking to her on the phone one time, and she mentioned that to me. And this was before she had said, that she wasn't going to die. But she just keeps asking me, well, you're going, right? As in going up. And I go, well, you're so tight with them. I figure I'm on the list. Like the VIP
put a
list
good
or
word in
something.
for me.
Right. She's like, well, it really doesn't work like that. And I go, I know, Grandma. I'm just, just messing with you a little bit. But that's, and all of it, like you just said, that, there's coincidences aren't really coincidences. There's truth or reality.
Well,
or
if you
there's
believe in
something-
the Big Bang and the theory of evolution, then you probably do believe in coincidence, because
Sure.
that's the meaning of your whole life, is you're just a coincidental accident.
Absolutely.
But I just don't think that's the case.
Deja vu and all these things.
Where are you today on 9/11? Like, what's your latest? If you had to summarize what your personal thoughts are about the attacks of September 11th, give me a couple sentences on where you are.
It's not like they're spinning it. I mean, they brought them down. The government, whoever, we don't really know who that is, or I don't know who it is, but it was a planned event. Just the everything that goes along with it, with the Building 7 coming down in the afternoon, and just watching the movie. I'm kind of with just the way you said it and put it out there in the movie. Is there's something bigger going on. I know I've talked to Dave about it after I saw it. I was like, I watched this thing, and man, it just, like you talk about your awakening or whatever, and that
I
kind of
don't like cliche terms like that, but
but it's true.
I know what you're saying.
I mean, that movie did a number on all of us.
Right. It kind of, you just kind of watch it, and some of the stuff that you go into in detail about when the buildings were coming down and how, the sounds that people on the street heard, and just, it doesn't make any sense.
Did you go through some sort of an emotional fallout from this at all, or were you just like, oh, okay,
No,
inside job,
I would
move on with my life?
No, it
This,
wasn't
like,
a
hit
just
you in
move
some way.
on. It was, it made me start looking into other things that have happened. When you go back to, the Denver shooter and, Sandy Hook and just other events that go on. And, if they can...
Oh, you should have listened to some of our predictive programming shows.
He's actually listened to every podcast.
Yeah.
You have? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
He's actually done more than
Yeah,
me.
if you guys go on there and see him, thumbs them up. It helps us pop up in other people's searches.
Oh, right. Well, there you go. But yeah, I've listened, just listening to all that. I've watched a couple of the ones on YouTube to actually get the visuals of that, which that's a lot better, in my opinion, than the podcast. To have the
I think the
visual that goes
visuals
along.
help a ton. Because it's like the difference between someone coming home and telling you about a car accident they saw versus showing you a videotape of the body flying out of the car as it rolls down the highway. It's just a very different, it's one of the reasons I wanted my sister on today. One, she wanted to talk politics, which I would have been fine about talking about. But one of the breakthrough, I thought it was more of a breakthrough, but it ended up not being so much, other than 9/11. Before the movie was out, I was having a hard time convincing anybody that I had sense going on, that there was sense behind this. But after they saw clips of it, they started to come around. So fine, inside my family and circles, 9/11 is some sort of an inside job. They get that. And so then I've been talking to them about it's not like we're up against some dude that's a one-trick pony. There are thousands of global operations going on by this cabal, and if you find the leader of them, I do think we're talking about the devil from the Bible. And there was another one that I was talking about, just mentioned in passing, was Sandy Hook, about how this event was, when I say staged to a laughable level, where the people they were portraying as victims are showing up at the White House 5 days later. They're in Super Bowl halftime shows. It's just a sham. It's as big a
so
level
bad.
sham as the NASA Challenger space shuttle.
It's so
Those
And
guys didn't die
that
either.
thing disappeared as quickly as it came.
What?
Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice how fast it went away? Because, with the way everybody's now hip to the fact that a lot of this stuff is at least staged. If the event happens, it's embellished greatly and shoved to a political agenda. And the second Sandy Hook happened, it was a few days, and we were already hearing, not real, crisis actors. We're already hearing this, and I'm like, oh, my God, this too. I didn't even get a chance to look into it. And the second that popped up, Sandy Hook just went away. We just stopped hearing about Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
That's
you don't
what
hear
my
about it
sister
anymore.
turned me on. So I mentioned her, like, at this point, like, now when I say these things, like, oh, you know, Sandy Hook was a false flag, and there's Boston bombings, again,
Goes
all
on and
crisis
on and
actors, fake, yada, yada. The whole, there's just nothing but a facade, a global facade. And, like, I don't even engage. I used to think, like, I've got to convince everyone, but I now realize that if they don't want the truth, just, you give it to them twice, and if they don't want it after that, you just walk away and just let them live ignorantly. So my sister comes home, like, 4 days later, after I'd mentioned Sandy Hook, and she gave me an eye roll, essentially, over the telephone. Like, okay, Dave, whatever, you crazy
another
conspiracy
one.
theorist. Yeah. So she rolls in for holiday break. I'm expecting, I've got my guard up. I'm waiting for her to get down with me about, okay, Sandy Hook, you conspiracy nut. And she instead was like, oh, my God, Dave, the whole thing was made up.
Dude, when I first heard, someone told me that, I think it was Howard, actually, that was like, you know, just mentioned it. We weren't like, you know, analyzing. He just was like, well, like Sandy Hook, like that thing was totally a sham. And I'm like, what? He's like, you never looked into that? And I'm like, no. He's like, dude, look into it. It's ridiculous. So it took 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
Not even 10 minutes. I'm like, oh my, you got to be kidding me. Like, it's so utterly ridiculous.
The school was closed.
You don't even have to get into those details.
I mean, you know,
well, the principal of the school happened to also be a witness at the Boston bombing. The principal that died, by the way, was a witness later on at the Boston bombing.
Right, and the one that drove it home for me was there's that couple that, and again, if this is already pre-planned, so it's impossible to talk about.
Is this the guy that played a dead guy's father and also played one of the SWAT team members?
Yeah, that guy, the dad, and they're in front of.
This will be good. This will be good imagery we can put.
They're
on
giving
this.
speeches about gun control and all this nonsense, right? Which is what it's all about.
How can a dead guy give a speech?
Well, no, he's the father of one of the kids that. And again, if this is kind of baked into these situations where, you know, you're so insensitive, kids died. Well, maybe they did, maybe they didn't.
They're like a hyper form of new type of lobbyist.
But if they did,
what if we're right? What if we're right? Shouldn't other people just be incensed that they would use the deaths of children to further their agenda?
Well, this is what evil does.
This is what got me excited, because my sister pointed me on to something that I believe is nonpartisan to a certain extent, is Amazon. Because it's a bazaar for everybody.
That book, yeah.
And there was a book written by one of the quote unquote teachers/survivors who barricaded herself in a bathroom with like 15 kids.
Okay.
Totally fabricated story out of nothing. And this woman wrote a book, and she's on the tour circuit all over television. Now she gets, this was her deal, I think, with the devil. She gets to write a book and makes money and goes on appearances and gets sympathy. So she's like, my sister's like, did you see the Amazon feedback on this book? And I'm like, no. So she pulls it up, and I start reading the feedback. And I sort this every possible way. So it wasn't just the 1-star comments or the 5-star comments or the newest or the latest, but it was roughly 4 out of 5 of them were like, you treasonous scumbag. Like, we're on to you. Yeah, the book had something about hope and in the title, and people are, there's no hope for you because you're a lying crisis act. I was really surprised at how much of the it almost seemed too much, because I don't think 80% of the population is hip to the fact that they're getting
no, but I don't know that an Amazon feedback string is representative of the population so much. It just shows that, you know, it's not like, oh, it's a great book, it's heartwarming, this kind of thing. There people were calling her out as being a fraud.
Yeah.
Much more so than they were anything else. So, you know, it's... But, you know, what I was saying before is, you know, they make it impossible to talk about it like this because, you know, the kids, quote-unquote, were killed, and how dare you be so insensitive. But granted, and if it was embellished and something bad did happen, of course we're not minimizing this. But you can't, by any means, look at some of this information and go, okay. I mean, this is blatantly... And it's not even... In my mind, with what's available about it, it's not even a conspiracy. It's right in your grill. I mean, this is right up in your face. And it's just a matter of whether you want to pay attention to it or not. And when I saw that couple that's talking around, you know, about this, you know, all these issues, and then shows up that not only, like you said, he's also one of the SWAT team guys, FBI SWAT team, by the way. It's like, wait, what? And it's clear as day this guy's hiding his face from the camera. He's, people.
But that mark on his face, I'm just like, oh my god,
it's unreal.
How brazen is that?
It's just crazy.
The first one that happened, I believe, prior to Sandy Hook was that reporter.
I think that was after Sandy Hook.
Was that after Sandy
Hook? And that went away
What
even
reporter?
faster. The reporter in Virginia that got shot on TV.
That supposedly got
quote-unquote.
shot on TV.
Oh yeah, that was.
I thought that was prior, but I could be wrong. But that was my cousin. My cousin Brandon.
Yeah, he called it out the
He
day.
called it the second it happened.
Yeah.
Like, oh, come on, look at the video. That's totally fake.
Yeah.
And my family totally dismissed him. And then I looked at it and I'm like, he's right.
He's right. It was totally fake.
I mean, you can see
And that
when
was-
the
that was
shooter,
gone.
the shirt the shooter has in the one video is not the same as the shirt
it's
that the guy had.
It's ugly how fake it is. And then it disappeared off of the face of news forever. You don't hear anything about this. And what really, really drove it home for me was more than the GoPro video, the fake GoPro video, was the dad, the father. The father is actually an actor, and did cereal commercials back in the 80s.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
he did Red Cross commercials he's a doctor in a Red Cross commercial for donating blood to, he has to come out and break the news to the family that their loved one died because they don't have blood, so donate blood. He's the doctor in this ad.
Really?
And coincidentally, the day before the shooting, he was on the news on another network talking about some river or something.
Yep.
And just gratuitous mention that his daughter just so happens to be a newscaster on this other competing
true.
channel in town. Oh, really? Your daughter so-and-so by name, mention her name just to make sure that it's on the day before. Now, why? Really, you think these things line up like this? And then they're interviewing him within a day of this incident, not a tear in his eye, not a tear. And the boyfriend or fiance, same thing. These guys are not upset. Now, if you were to ask me...
So the boyfriend of the female reporter?
The fiance, the dad and him did interviews together.
Right. Well, so the boyfriend. This is where I knew this was staged because it was very much like Jane Stanley of the BBC announcing the falling of Building 7 before it happened. This little reporter's boyfriend sent out a text saying, "We're very sorry for the loss of my girlfriend, whatever her name is." And the text was sent out 15 minutes before the incident happened.
Yeah, so you put this all together, and I'm looking at this going, you know what? And that's what really did it for me, because, I've lived through things like this. So if any news network were to come to my house and knock on the door the day after this happened, or 2 days after, or, I don't know, any time within that first, you are in such shock that I would, number one, refuse to do the interview because I couldn't even...
Dude, my mother died of natural causes 14 years ago. When we get into situations and start talking about family and mothers and stuff like that, I still choke up and often cry.
Now, this he saw the video. Saw it. He didn't get a call and say, hey, something happened. He saw the video of her getting gunned down. And he can just talk about it like it's, but his biggest thing is, again, gun control and this. So this to me is...
He kept it together for gun control. Good for him.
It's crazy, dude. It's just so crazy.
Hey, speaking of gun control, we find this is a new one that's going to be really, really bad for all the conservatives who want to carry guns. Did you guys hear about that football player?
Oh yeah,
at the auto dealership.
Yeah, he had a gun in his bag.
He had a gun
and shot himself.
A gun finally killed someone.
Well, he killed himself.
He grabbed it. He had a bunch of. He had some things in a duffel bag, and a gun was in there. And he grabbed the duffel bag, shot himself in the gut, and unfortunately passed away. But
when did this happen?
Just yesterday. Or
yesterday.
A couple days ago. I haven't watched the news.
Yeah.
Who was it? Someone
he was a CMU football player.
Yeah, he's a local guy from Warren.
He played for the Colts.
Played for the Colts, 14-15. Yeah,
but no, technically,
and not to make light of his situation, but. This is the first, this is the first time I've seen a gun actually kill someone on its own.
Yeah, but actually he killed himself. So he put the gun in there loaded.
I'm being facetious.
But, you know, I'm a little sensitive about the gun issue.
I know that's why I bring it up. That's okay. I am too, brother. I just exercise my right not to carry one.
And that's fine. Whatever, yeah.
I don't exercise that right.
No, I carry guns all the time.
Yeah, I want to start carrying guns, but I don't want to register under some CPL.
Well, do that.
You
Otherwise,
probably
you're
shouldn't
gonna go to
say
prison.
that on the radio.
Yeah, because it's a felony. It's a big problem.
Yeah,
Your
that's probably-
CPL,
Photo
dude.
said that, not
Yeah.
Dave, not
It doesn't
Dave
matter
Hooper.
because in the end, what are you hiding from? Because really, he already knows what you're doing. So, I mean, you're not hiding from anything. Just get it legal so you don't go to prison. Because that would federal firearms charge and felony. You know, especially
Well,
if gun's not registered.
There's
Now
going
you
to be
got
a
two.
day where very possibly a prison is one of the safest places to be. Not that I'm interested in extending this physical life out any further
Yeah.
than it needs to be, but at least there's going to be
do
a modicum
more.
of
The more
protection
people
over
that
there.
have their CPLs, the better off we all are, and not from a safety aspect or anything else. It's simply because, as always, strength in numbers. The more people, the state that have a CPL, whether
It's the
you
only-
carry a
That's
gun
what
or not,
drives me nuts
It's the
about
only reason we have any rights right now.
yeah, is
some
you have to exercise them.
uneducated, just a pinball, just a type of person that will believe whatever they're told. And you try to talk to them about the fact, like, do you understand why essentially this country has freedom still? Is because we're an armed populace. If we didn't have arms,
It would have been over a long time ago.
and what happens to every nation right after there's a big movement to take the guns out of the hands?
Well, millions
of
of
the
people
people.
get slaughtered
Usually.
immediately after,
Usually,
almost every time.
exactly.
So, you know, but the problem with it is the mindset, and I think you'll agree, is that if you're talking to a person like this, the only thing that in their mind, because they're not of any kind of gun culture, they probably didn't grow up around guns, they probably never hunted, never spent any time on a farm, like that part of the American culture just wasn't part of their lives. They see a gun, they're like, oh, scary thing, oh, that's so scary, oh, that's scary, and AR-15, and oh my God, assault weapon, oh my God. They don't even know that those weapons weren't even designed to be effective, because they're not, actually, in the settings that these people are using them.
Yeah,
More
I
people would
actually,
be
it's
dead.
hard to respect people that have that sort of attitude about some issues, not just gun control, but even inside of the work we do. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, don't mention the devil, don't say Satan. You know, you're giving him power. I'm like, well, you know what? Actually, you degrade his power by understanding what he's all about,
Right.
because then he has no effect over you. And the other thing is, if you care about if you believe Jesus Christ was the Son of God, and you care about what he said, he talked more about Satan and hell and avoiding that place than most other things. So you're not following his footsteps.
Well,
how is it going to benefit you to not acknowledge something that you will someday have to deal with, or your kids will have to deal with? Do you really think you're doing yourself a favor,
like this,
or are you
dude.
just such a puss that
Well,
you can't talk about something that scares you? Sorry.
It's right back to the warnings that are littered throughout that. Especially, Jesus made it a point to really warn people about deception. And if I was Satan sitting here, and you were a minister about to go give your sermon, and your standpoint and your talk for the day was going to be, we don't really want to talk about Satan because that's going to glorify him. If I was sitting here being Satan, I wouldn't have to say anything. I'm like, dude, my work is done here. That guy is going to go fool all these people and go totally against what Jesus taught. So I'm good here. I'm going to move on to the next minister because he's already delivering my message, which is don't talk about evil, don't talk about Satan, because this will somehow glorify him. I've actually heard ministers say these things. And
well, you're playing into his hand. Because
absolutely.
He went, and the Bible said that Rome wouldn't really ever die out. It would go hidden, and then it would reemerge in the very last days. It's part of his plan to go hidden, to become a joke, a myth.
Right.
He's not really real.
Well,
That's part of this. You're playing into his plan. Like, you do understand that, like, when someone says that to me.
That's my position on it. It's like, well, if I read in the Bible quite the opposite, that and the one verse that you actually used as our closing statement, right? Is
Ephesians
you don't
5:11.
Yeah, you don't participate, but expose them.
Expose it.
Well, how are you supposed to expose it if you can't talk about it?
How are you supposed to expose it if you don't know it when you're doing it? If you're
Right.
completely
Well,
unfamiliar with
that's
it.
the second phase. That's the second phase is that they removed the Bible from when they removed the Bible from school.
Ooh, I learned something about that this week.
They take it. I mean, Bible was a part of the curriculum until 1963.
More than that. So, and I didn't
I
realize.
mean, it was the book. 200 years prior, it was the book that you learned to read from. That and there was.
No, you had it right.
There was some hymnal that went along with it.
I learned this over the last few days, and that is that our education system was actually, the public education system was set up with, you know what its specific number one purpose was? To teach children how to read and write so they could read the Bible. That was
interesting,
the
isn't it?
purpose of our public education system. Now, the way our
set up, by the way, by Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was
public education?
Yeah,
No, I think this. Are you sure about that?
There was a story that I'll have to dig into more, but Thomas Jefferson, I'm pretty sure, when he was president, they asked him to also run they wanted him in charge of education. He's like, well, I can't do both, but I'll sit on the school board. And so he was on like the national school board based out of I don't know if they were in Washington when he was a president or if they were still.
I don't know. You have to look into that because I don't think.
I read a story. I'll have to corroborate
Yeah, I think this
that.
was a lot later.
Well, the
'cause
public
it was-
school system didn't even fall into the hands of the feds until I think the 70s.
Well, then maybe it was a local
Well,
thing.
it was in the States.
It was 1905.
It could have been in his state.
It could have been in
Right.
his state.
But the idea of going to a.
And people will tell you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, go for it. You go ahead.
But people will tell you that Jefferson was one of the main secularists of the founding fathers.
Right.
But
Yeah,
he
was suspicious of all of it.
Yeah, but this guy's telling him he's setting up to. You need to read the Bible because you need to know what's going on. How can you make an informed decision if you don't know both sides?
Yeah.
Now I'm not going to interrupt you. Feel free. Go ahead.
Well, now I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay,
You said
sweet.
you
Then
learned
shut
something
up.
a couple days ago.
Well, the reason our school system, our public school system, was put out there, like the reason what the lobbyists used back, and I think this would have been early 1900s, was so that we could teach our children how to read the Bible.
So literacy, so that they can read the Bible.
And I should
That's an
use that
interesting
example
concept.
for my mom
That
because
is.
she thinks when an institution's set up, it's like golden forever. So she keeps going back to, the Catholic Church, Peter said, I'm going to build this rock. I'm like, but you do understand how they start to change. In fact, God, that's another thing that happened this week. Super quick sidebar. My sister finds underneath my mattress this little brass idol with two little angels on it. And I asked my mom, I go, Mom, what is this thing? And she's like, those angels, those are angels looking over you. And I'm like, dude, this is what I don't understand. You're a Catholic. Do you even read the Bible?
To his mom.
I mean, it's not only is it in total idol, it's
Right.
got, and these things actually look demonic if you ask me. I'm like, these angels can't help me. These are the very idols that this whole book that is the foundation of your religion talks about, but you don't even know what's in there.
Yeah. It's
So I secretly threw it
and I
away.
don't know that it even states anything
I don't
about
think it's a
Peter being a
secret
Catholic.
anymore.
I take big issue on this. But anyway.
Well, there were already letters being written to churches like Philadelphia and Sardis and Laodicea, 400 years before the Catholic Church, organized itself.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Well, anyway, so we were back at see, I lost my
The education
education system. That is an institution totally controlled, and Adolf Hitler said it best: "Let me control the textbooks. I will control the population."
yeah.
And it comes about in the early 1900s, right as the theory of evolution's coming in there, and it is one of the main building blocks of our whole education system. It's pounded into us from a young age. Is planets millions of years old,
Right.
dinosaurs
Yeah.
billions of years,
Right.
evolution
Used to be an
millions,
ape.
mutation.
Was once an amoeba.
Right.
And you, by the time you're 10 years old, you already have this problem of like, well, Adam and like a 10-year-old doesn't believe Adam and Eve, But he might believe in Santa Claus, but he won't believe. Do you understand?
No, I do understand what you're saying, and that
is
where,
controlled by the Illuminati in America.
Oh, absolutely.
J.P. Morgan was the guy that began the funding, or it did something in the early 1900s to take it over, and it's funny. But the institution is if that was its original purpose, it's funny that it's fully been turned 180
That's the opposite
degrees.
now, right? Yeah, it actually is being used now to not only propose but support and administer what I call the satanic agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this homeschooling explosion is a response.
It's a direct. It's a response to it. Absolutely.
This is the hardest
I
thing.
have friends who homeschool, and their exact reason is it's the extra stuff. It's the fact that they've taken God out of everything, and then they've twisted it, and they're teaching you the things they're teaching you. It's like, well, wait a minute, that's not even real.
Well, it's so bad now, and you actually look into what's going on in the UK in schools, and has been actually. We're actually catching up to the idea that gender is a social construct. That's what they are pushing now. Is that?
Oh God, my kid came home yesterday saying something about. They were talking at his nursery school about being a boy or a girl. What would be better? It was. I didn't like where it was going, but he's like, I wouldn't mind being a.
Of course he wouldn't, and wearing a dress, and
I'm like, dude,
it is
like I'm.
Did
sitting,
you have
I had a serious problem with that.
Have
Whereas
you had
my
a
sister,
discussion with the people at his preschool? Because I
don't know. I don't know
fast.
I don't know for sure if that was the source of it. But my point is my sister's with me, and she thinks, oh, this is all great and socially evolved, and I'm just like, oh my God, you're so trapped in.
Whoa.
You're in a fog and you don't know it.
And this is, and again, another time when they already bake in the argument against anything you're going to say, because, and this is by design, this has all been designed. If you even bring up an issue about it, instantly you're a bigot. You're not, you hate people. When this is not.
Right, you're immediately a hater. When you're just going, I'd rather my son, blah, blah, blah. No, you hate people. You hate those people.
Right. Yeah, and but you see now, and again, I don't know because I haven't looked into it really deep. So the shooting in Orlando, I believe this really happened. I don't know if I think people probably got killed down there, but I don't know. So I don't want to, minimize that by any means. It's a horrible thing. But this has literally put on the launch pad now this whole other wing of this agenda, which is not only deleting gender, but creating so many of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
they added another letter now.
Oh, dude, Q. I don't even know what this is. But
they've added Q.
To give you an idea,
I just explained to him what LGBT was because he was only like at L&G.
And what's Q, questioning?
Yes, I believe it's gender
check it out,
questioning.
dude. And this is not to. They're
going to have an alphabet by the time.
Well, they already actually do. This is not to condemn these individuals by any means.
No,
because
not at all.
Just I have to be clear, but before I say what I'm going to say, that we don't hate anybody, even if a man wears makeup and cuts his thing off. In my mind, it just makes him a man that cut his thing off. But whatever he thinks is fine. I still accept him as a human being. I just want to set the record straight. I believe it was in Europe at a parliament thing. It was some government thing. Some guy, and I don't know. You can look this up. I saw it on YouTube. It took this guy so long because he was introducing different genders of people that would be there. It was obviously some formal meeting of some kind. This was in Europe and UK, judging from their accents. He went through and introduced 52 different genders. It took him so long that...
What do you mean 52 different genders?
Dude, non-binary, inter-male, inter-female. I mean, 52 of them. It's on YouTube. You can find it. It's insane. I'm like, whoa. And it's just stuff I've never heard of before. So literally what's going on, this is just to utterly confuse. And then what happens, the U.S. Defense Department came out, I think today, and now announced that transgenders can openly serve in the military. We're changing the rules, just like that. Now,
dude,
again,
this is the days of Noah.
Dude,
this place is about to get blown
exactly
up.
Right. But again, the antithesis or the anti-argument's already baked in. You got break time?
Yeah, we got to pay a few bills.
Let's do it.
We'll pick this up when we get back.
Yeah.
This is Down the Rabbit Hole. Welcome back to Down the Rabbit Hole. We're having a free-for-all Thursday today. Talking about all kinds of interesting
Free
stuff.
for all Thursday. That's new
And
too.
Dave's blowing my mind with 52 different genders.
Yeah. It's funny because the guy that was sitting is president because they referred to him as that. I think he's president of some organization, right? Because this is
Probably a gender identification organization.
Well, he asked the guys going on and on with his introduction. He's like, "Can I, interject with a question here?" And he's like, "No, I'm not done with the introductions yet." And he kept going on and on and on and on. And I'm like, "Who invented this stuff?" And I said, "Oh, wait a minute, I know who invented it." So, but it's very interesting. It's all very
52.
interesting. But kids are getting, punished and kicked out of school, actually, for saying things. Boys can wear skirts now, and it's totally awesome. So says the headline of the article I saw.
Yeah, and that's. I think this is why you need to be equally yoked. Because I remember having this conversation with Betsy. I'm like, why don't we homeschool Brady? But she's in that place where she still is too afraid to be socially awkward, to do something that's not, what the group is
right.
doing.
Well,
And I'm just like, oh, God.
I'll tell you what, of my friends who homeschool, those are some of the smartest kids.
Are you kidding me? Dude, I've been homeschooling Brady.
We have an update
Correction.
on the genders.
There's
53 now?
63.
63. Wait a minute, dude. I'm not on board with 52 yet.
So let's just kind of...
Yeah, can you
So, masculine homosexual man, masculine heterosexual man, masculine bisexual man, feminine homosexual man, feminine heterosexual man, feminine bisexual man, androgyne homosexual man.
Androgynous?
No, androgyne. I don't know what the hell this means. Doesn't matter. Because this is all fake anyway. Androgyne bisexual man, masculine heterosexual woman, masculine homosexual woman. These are things we're basically...
Is masculine heterosexual man on there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was like
that
number
was
3.
Yeah, and that's like the metrosexual type, whatever. But
No, well, there's got to be. What
hold
would
on.
we be?
there's a
we
masculine.
evolved from apes,
and I'm going to skip
so-
around. I'm going to skip
Ape-like
around.
homosexual man.
I'm going to skip around to the really weird ones. Okay, so masculine male attracted hermaphrodite, and masculine male attracted hermaphrodifemale.
So can you even be a regular hermaphrodite anymore, or is that
Apparently,
over?
you can't even be a boy because it's not on the list. They even broke that into subcategories. And I don't know what this androgyne term means, but
those are it's for androgynous. Those are the
They're neither
that's,
male
yeah.
nor
So
female.
and it's even an androgyne, bisexual, andro-female. And
double
an
androgyne.
androgyne, female attracted androdite. Whatever, dude. Like this kind of stuff here is there's two genders. Okay, everybody, two.
yeah.
You're either born a man or you're born a woman. And that's the bottom line. That's the end of the story. This argument cannot be broken. I don't care who you are.
If there is a God that made us, if He made us, he owns us. He owns the world. He owns us, and I mean, if we're His creation, you just might not be the highest rung on the ladder in this.
Well, and
in
you
this
could even
universe.
remove-
If it happens,
Which I don't ever do, but you can just remove God out of the conversation for a second, just to be completely secular and scientific. There's still only two genders. Okay?
Right.
Genetically speaking, there's only two. That's it. Only two. Only 1, 2. That's it. Everything else is nonsense. Gender is not a social construct, just like race isn't, just like age isn't. Okay? I can't be black ever because I'm not. Right? And I can't be a senior citizen yet either
Well, you said
No
you're
matter how
Italian.
hard you
because
try.
I'm not. So this
sorry, but you're
So-
Italian.
well,
Yeah,
Sicilian, so
you're
I
Sicilian,
kind of
yeah.
black, kind of. But
Is
all-
eggplant a bad word? Because I
yeah,
saw
well,
it
it
in
is actually. It's very racist.
that Christopher Walken
yeah,
movie
that's
with Dennis
totally
Hopper.
racist, dude. Yeah, that's like
I said it
True,
now.
true romance.
yeah, that's
That's
a really
what it
bad-
was.
Yeah, that's a bad.
Christopher Walken's had some awesome roles.
But yeah, so where does this go? I mean, where does this go? Okay, let's say we become sensitive to this, and I would accept.
I
Any
bet
of
you if
these
we
people.
leave him alone, it'll be 99 by the end of the week.
I would accept any of these people. Okay, this is not like I'm going to kick somebody off my front porch if they're starving because they're an androdite, pumpkin-attracted femaleophyte. Well, and I would never even come up with this anyway. It's another person, whatever, right? I mean, I have these people in my family, and I love them
They're
still.
human.
But the question is, so what does this lead to? There's always a bigger picture to this satanic agenda. So you get this baked in.
It's
So what's
population control.
Well, what does it blow the doors open to? I mean, it blurs the lines so bad.
We're getting more accustomed to the concept of modifying ourselves through
Yes.
genetic manipulation, through
Right.
transhumanism, through bionics, through mental augmentation.
Well,
I mean, there is some.
This is key because it leads into, I saw an interview thing. It was like a panel, and it was actually they were unveiling some new medical technology. And you can search this, because I can't exactly remember what the name of the procedure is. But it was the statement that the doctor made that my ears opened. I was like, what did he just say? Rewind it, listen to it again. And yeah, it's what he said. He said they now have the ability, because, all the stem cell research they're doing and all this kind of genetic type, stuff they're doing. The statement the doctor made is that we now have the ability to modify or edit, is the word he used, edit cells to make them better than nature made them. That is, wow. Really? Really? You're going to make them better than, let's just make the statement correct. I'll correct the good doctor. We're going to edit cells to make them better than God created them.
Well, have you seen some of the hybrid creatures that have been popping up all over the place where they'll take, they will splice in a particular set of genes from two different types of animals. So they did this with, you can look this up right now, Howard. They did this with mice. Now, there's some animals that are underwater that have a phosphorescence to them that glow in the dark, and they spliced in the genes that were responsible for that characteristic. And what you had were glow-in-the-dark mice. And you can splice in the hearing ability of a bat or the sonar ability of a bat into another creature.
This is not going to end well.
And this was
It's not going to end well.
everything when the four disciples they got Jesus off by himself and said, what are going to be the signs of your coming? Every time he was asked that, he'd always started off with, don't be deceived. And then it was as it was in the days of Noah.
Right.
And what was going on in the days of Noah? People were having sex with anybody. Homosexuality was rampant. Crime. People were lovers of themselves.
Genetic abominations.
That was the last one. And that has come into play really, well, it's come into the public view in the last 30 years. But remember, what's in the public view, the underground military complex is 50 years ahead of that.
Sure.
So if you think that when Bush is up there talking about, I think it's okay to do stem cell research, and not like he's in on what's going on in some of these hidden parts of our world, but if they're talking about, we're just using it for stem cell research, we're 50 years beyond that. Like, we've probably got clones.
Oh, they
animals. I'm sure we've cloned people.
You can find this too. They actually already are cloning people in China for medical research, but they only let the embryo/fetus get to a certain age, and then they terminate it because it would be, get this, it wouldn't be, I don't know if they actually use the word moral, but they use some word to describe it, that they couldn't let these things develop into full humans because that wouldn't be right. But they're actually already cloning human beings and using them for medical research. This is known. This is not a crazy conspiracy.
No,
it's medical norm.
When I see a movie like The Island, which had what's Scarlett Johansson and who's the dude that played the young Obi-Wan Kenobi? What's his name?
Ewan McGregor.
Yeah,
Thank you.
McGregor.
So, and I believe the truth of our world is hidden in science fiction. Like, there's a little truth in every science fiction movie. So this movie comes out, and again, underground, there are these, in the movie there is this society of these people that think need to live underground because the surface isn't safe, kind of like Cloverfield Lane movie. If you guys saw that, by the way.
Not yet.
I don't
All
think
right.
so.
You guys, I haven't seen it yet either, but that's the premise of it. Woman comes up, she just wakes up in a house, and the people that she doesn't know the people she's with, but they're like, there's been an incident in the world, and the air outside is poisoned, and they've got all the ducts shut and sealed off. And so that's not the premise? Kenny, what's the
No,
premise?
what it is, it's called 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Right.
What it is a big creature, like a Godzilla type creature has.
No, that's
No, you're thinking
that's just
Cloverfield.
Well, yeah, that's what this is based off the sequel of it.
Oh,
Oh, it is?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
In
so
that-
keep going.
In that there is a poisonous gas, as you say, but it's also dealing with this huge monster that's out there, and it can release little monsters that are like human size. So everybody's kind of dug underground, and
Do they ever show one in the movie?
I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, but I mean, the regular Cloverfield, it did.
yeah, they had
show,
those
like-
monsters in Cloverfield.
Yeah.
I saw that.
I do think...
But
like-
basically, they're sheltering themselves from being found from the monsters and
Right on.
whatnot.
that is an example of there's an example of my faith, because the Bible talks about these two massive monstrous creatures. There's Leviathan, which is underwater, and then there's Behemoth.
Behemoth, yeah.
I don't know where God said these things exist, so that's what I'm taking on faith. At this point, everything he said that I thought was absolutely wacko.
Okay, I was wrong. It says after getting in a car accident, a woman is held in a shelter with two men who claim the outside world is affected by a widespread chemical attack.
Yeah, that's what I thought
That's
it
the-
was. And then she's got a decision to make. Do I believe my captors, or do I make a run for it? And that was the premise of the island, is there's this mini society of people underground. And if they're out of touch with the surface, it was like the old Eloy versus, remember that movie, Center to the
Right.
Indian Time, whatever it was? Like, if that is very possible. We've certainly got the technology to build underground cities because we've done it. I mean, those exist underneath the United States. They exist all over the world. And it seems to be like, again, it's always the same playbook played over and over. We won't be the first civilization that has tried to protect themselves by going under the earth for something. And we've found
Sure.
underground cities, old ones, all over the, I keep wanting to say globe, all over the earth.
All over the.
So the premise
inner
in this
surface.
island is these people think that they're like they're the last hope of humanity, and they're the special ones because they've been kept alive, and they're underground where they're just maintaining until they can go back up to the surface. And one of the guys that's in this society gets hip to the fact that this is all bull. Like, there is life on the surface. People are going up there all the time. Why can't we go up? And he comes to find out that every time someone leaves the underground society to go to the quote unquote the island, it's because all of these guys were basically clones or copies that had been paid for by the ultra rich on the surface. So if anyone ever had
Right.
like a liver that
Yep.
Yeah,
went
that's right.
bad or
They
cancerous,
just take theirs.
and then these
That's
guys
right.
get their
They harvest them.
they harvest them, and that was their purpose for living. They were insurance policies, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's something like that out there.
Oh, why not? I mean, nothing.
Doesn't sound too
again,
far-fetched.
Nothing is too wacky for this group, but I mean,
Well, I mean, the one wacky thing in that whole movie, if I'm underground with ScarJo, I ain't going anywhere.
yeah, probably hang.
I'll be like, hey, there's people going, who cares? I'm with ScarJo.
yeah, it's fine.
I think I'm gonna go home and see that movie
Yeah,
tonight. Now
it's all good. We'll just hang out here. It's fine.
I know, she is pretty good looking.
Sorry.
See, I have the same problem a lesbian does, which is we both want to have sex with Scarlett Johansson.
Right, and let's be clear, God doesn't like that.
Yeah.
So it's equal. There's equal. It's all about equality, man. All about it.
What else should we talk about?
I have a question for you
Yeah.
guys. What do you guys think about this, like the whole Purge movie? Like one day, like they're saying one day, there's one day out of a whole year that you can
The concept of it?
Yeah. Like, what's your guys' take on that?
I didn't watch the movie. I think it's a great idea for a movie. It's you can make a cool movie out of
Right.
it. But
They've actually made several.
yeah, is there a sequel now?
Yeah, there's a third
Yeah, I
one.
think
This
it's-
is
yeah,
actually
so they're
the
on a third one now.
Couple, yeah.
Well,
it's called-
where are you going with that?
Like how the government issues one day out of the year, they call it purging, that all crime is legal, including murder, for 12 hours. So from like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., you have that time frame of saying, all right, I don't like so-and-so. I'm going to wait for the purge day. I'm going to go over there and kill him because it's legal. People are getting, revenge on so-and-so, or just rich people are being part of it by grabbing up the homeless and doing a auction off on killing them or how they should be killed.
That sounds
Now the third one,
insane.
yeah, the
Yeah,
third
that was the
installment,
second one.
the third installment of the Purge series is there's a lady that was, in her house, her husband tried to kill her and her daughters, so she ends up becoming senator to stop the purging. So now the government's going after her to wipe her off so they can keep the
that's
purge.
Keep doing the
Okay.
purge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Satan's very happy that they made those movies. Number one, because the idea behind it, although it's fake, it's a movie.
Yeah.
It probably makes a really cool, entertaining movie, whatever. But if you're to
Yeah,
try
but
to
it never ends up well for the main characters.
well, if you're trying
the
to
first
equate
one,
that,
Actually, no. They end up surviving. The main characters do.
yeah, but I
survive.
mean, it was pretty hellish for Ethan, in the first one.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't
The
watch.
second
I
one
wish I'd
too.
watched
When
it.
And the second one, these poor schmucks, their escort
they're
broke
stuck.
down.
Yeah.
Well,
And
a
it's
lot
like
of
at that
horror
time, I was
movies-
having all kinds of car problems. Like, oh, that would be me. Yeah, purge is happening, car broke down.
horror movies are
It's like an action horror sci-fi thriller.
a lot of them exist because they're building up something inside of us that's going to be played later on. And I'll use the example: some people get scared of guns. Like they just
Right.
if there's a gun even anywhere near them, they get like all nervous and scary. But you put a gun in front of this is not going to sound good. This is a hypothetical example. You put a gun in front of a little kid that hasn't been programmed, hasn't seen anything. I mean, he might even be sucking
And
on
he's
the end of
interested
Right,
it.
yeah,
by
right,
it, yeah.
right.
Because
Yeah, 'cause it's
the
just an
fear of
object.
it hasn't been programmed in.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what this movie sounds like is very much like a Black Awakening that Russ Dizdar talks about, where by his 30-year research estimates, there are probably 50 to 100 million programmed MK Ultra. I mean, this is 3-4 generations now from the Nazis who were doing this, creating these split personalities where some of the personalities are they're killers. They are for hire killers, but the main dominant personality is not even aware of the existence of this. We learned how to split personalities
Sure.
back in the 40s. Even earlier, the Nazis did. And it's been weaponized without a doubt. And so this Black Awakening Day there's going to be on all of our TV sets one day somehow. I don't know how the code is going to be distributed.
It's definitely going to be through the TV.
Oh, that's when the little luggage lock
Yeah, that's the high
you know,
definition TV
on the barn breaks and the red horse rides.
So it's like we're being conditioned to fear this total anarchy where there is no protection but yourself. And if that, like when things, not if, but when things start to happen where you've associated this with films you've seen, do you know how much extra terror and extra fear are going to be
Oh, yeah.
moving through you because you're already playing out what happened to the people in the movie. It's coded into you whether you want it in there or not. And the dark side, I mean, the left-hand pathers, especially the ones that are summoning spirits and demons, whatever you want to call them, there apparently is something that when you can get the blood of someone that is in a state of absolute panic and fear, the endorphins or whatever has been released in the blood, when these people drink that blood, because this goes on. This is the leaders of our world that do this. Bohemian Grove, go check it out. Human sacrifice, mock human sacrifice. Even if it's a mock, who goes to a mock human sacrifice?
Yeah.
I mean, this is just crazy. But the Bible said this would absolutely be happening, and now we've seen there's just too much information. You'll never get it from Anderson Cooper, but it's definitely out there. And there's something in the blood when
that
you
could be
kill
simple.
someone that's in a state of fear. There's an extra high.
Yeah, it could be simple anatomy, and that could just be adrenaline.
Yeah.
It could just be simple adrenaline that's in there, and it will.
So when the day comes, which this is what it scares the shit out of me because these people just talk about it openly. But the dark side, they call it the Great Harvest.
Yeah,
and it's kind of what God calls
That's
it too.
right, yeah.
He calls it a harvest too.
oddly enough.
Basically, everyone's getting picked for who's going to be on whose recess football team.
That's right.
And you're either getting picked if you haven't said I want to be on this team, the winning side. You are by default on the losing side.
That's right. Yeah,
And
not making a choice has.
that is your
is
choice.
making a
And
choice.
that
Yes,
is
it is.
Yeah.
because no one is going to. God is not going to force you to go to His kingdom. He's not going to put a gun to your head. He's not going to come in on your deathbed and go, "Oh,
Hey,
you
dude."
really want to go to heaven?
Right.
Trust me. I'm just going to take you up there because I know what's better for you." He is the highest God, and His kingdom is of justice because there is free will in the kingdom. The fact that a third of the angels actually rebelled is proof that there is free will.
Sure.
I don't think, I believe the entities in heaven are sentient. I think they've got memories and emotions and desires too. Just, they're similar to humans. What did those fallen angels, what did Satan use to sell them? They had a propensity to like human women.
Yeah.
In fact, that's where the covering of the faces
Right.
of Middle Eastern women
That's the origin
originates. Not to do it so that some other Muslim man doesn't get all
of that. So the
bonerish on
watchers
ya.
couldn't see if they were
It's
good
so
looking or
that
not.
fallen angels wouldn't notice the
Yep.
woman, so that they can't like what you can't see.
Right.
So they covered their faces so that, as a safety measure against these, the Nephilim, the men of renown, whatever you want to call it. Man, I'm just ready for this thing to get started. I'm sick of talking about it, to be honest with you.
I sometimes share that sentiment, but then again, things happen. Like, Photo here, he buys a Bible, and it's like, all right, okay, he's gonna find what he's gonna find, right?
I think the reason that our protection,
and it goes. It's
the reason we're still protected is because there are guys like Photo. God's patient. I think that
That's
is
for
the
sure.
only thing that is keeping us
you're not ever
alive
patient.
is His veil of protection, which frankly I think He's lifted it from the United States. And I think if it wasn't lifted before, it was lifted when the Supreme Court passed the recent
yeah. It's the hedge is definitely.
the hedge of protection.
It's about I'm saying it's about 80% gone, dude, and what's left, the leaves are falling off. I'm with you on that one. I think that it's going to be take an awful long time and an awful lot of effort as a nation to turn that around. Individually, this is easy to take care of. We talk about this all the time. For me personally, for him, for you, personally as a family, etc. This is an easy thing to accomplish. But to accomplish this as a nation seems like this has never happened, actually. Because people always end up seeming to fail. Even Israel themselves did.
What do you mean?
As far as repenting as a nation
on a national
and
level.
being,
Well, there is an example in the Bible
Seem they
where
fall short,
I think it was
you know?
Jeremiah basically came and said, God doesn't do anything without warning. You're Jerusalem, Israel, you're going down. Plain and simple. It's going to happen in the next whatever.
right. That is.
And I don't know who the king was at the time. I don't think it was Saul or David. It was probably
God, it might have been.
Jeroboam. Yeah, who knows?
It might have been Saul, I think.
Well, whoever the king was basically goes out to all the people and says, "Guys, we got to repent.
Right.
We're screwed. We're going to get punished. The only thing we can do is just pray and hope for mercy." And they did, and God called off the punishment. You can negotiate with God.
Yeah,
That
for some
is
time, though.
all over the Bible.
Because-
Like, you can negotiate with Him, and He called off this coming punishment, which made the prophet look wrong. I mean, that Jeremiah was the weeping prophet, so I wasn't sure if it was him or another one of them. But so he was a little pissed. But the message was, if somehow, like if Barack Obama, I mean, it would have to come from him.
Right.
It's not
It
going to
would.
happen. Not going to be him.
It would
But
absolutely
then
have
you'd
to be
also
the
need
leader.
all the
Not gonna
television
happen.
networks to back this up. And these guys aren't, believe me, Satan's got control of the media.
Right.
At the end of the day. So even if the president wanted to come out and say that, he literally would get no coverage. He literally would have no voice. Even Kennedy was having a hard time.
As soon as he
getting
did
the
that,
message
they would
out.
all of a sudden find a reason to impeach him.
We
Right.
wouldn't even
It-
hear
Oh
about
yeah.
the
Well, all of a sudden,
story.
Benghazi would
it's-
become important.
Like I said, it
Did,
would be
did
the amount
Obama
of,
just mention God and
Exactly.
repentance?
yeah.
He basically said,
Benghazi.
look, everyone tonight in America listening to this would need to kneel down right now and pray to God to spare us.
yeah,
That sounds like what Israel did in the Old Testament, and
Right.
it worked.
for some time though, because then eventually they.
Yeah, all it did was hold
Well,
it
they
off
screwed
for
up
a
again.
generation.
Of course, and that's my
They,
point.
they got out of the one situation, but then they got themselves into a
They
few
always
others.
fall
and
back, and I think as this nation now is so
It's human nature.
you know
it's human nature.
The amount of effort and time it would take to do this, it's the clock's run out, dude.
It's like when I started this whole thing, I was thinking, okay, we got to save the United States. And then somewhere along the way, and there is a sadness inside because I don't view that as even a remote possibility. I think this country is absolutely gone. Completely.
Certainly fallen.
We might not be feeling it yet because the central banks keep putting more money into our money supply, and we're staving off D-Day, a few months at a time every time. But this is a tsunami. You can't.
Right.
It's not going to turn, and it's interesting that that's what the Bible predicted. It's just it will be unturnable. You can't change prophecy and what's been predicted. It's all these things are going to happen, and somewhere along the way it changed from, this isn't about saving a country. This is actually about any individual person that wakes up to this, they can save them. I mean,
Right.
if they understand who Jesus Christ is, they can understand what he came to save us from. And if you're an ignorant scoffer and you don't want to look into this stuff, you kind of, unless you somehow are already in with Jesus, but you don't know any of this stuff, which doesn't make sense to me anymore. Everyone I know that really knows Jesus Christ knows that the devil is a very real entity and he's very much at work. But
they don't always see the practical application of the devil's work.
right. Yeah,
They know he's real, but they don't. And then when you start, we've had experiences recently with people we're talking to where they come from the other side of the fence. They found the Bible first, and then tripped across us, and we're like, oh, really? That's kind of interesting. And hearing it from their perspective, they just didn't know how to see the applications.
Yeah, there's someone made a quote. I want to say it was La Rochefoucauld that said something along the lines of more evil has been done in the name of good than, like, most people that do evil, it's inadvertent. They don't know. Like my friends I've got a friend who's a federal prosecutor and another friend who works for the FBI, and they married each other. And they were kind of bragging about how they've taken an oath, which in their mind is an oath to our country, and that there's a lot of things that they're not allowed to talk about. Now, in my mind, I'm sitting here like, okay, I know how you got sold on this. You're making an oath to something you really don't understand, and you're helping, yes, your bosses by keeping something secret, but God doesn't operate in secret. I mean, that's his difference.
It's all out there.
He's open. So if you are in any line of work where you need to keep secrets, just understand you are probably being manipulated. It might seem like the cool job, like the Jason Bourne job. I'm a secret agent, or I'm working for the government, or I have a security clearance of some sort. And that's a great line at the bar. Don't get me wrong. But do you understand what you're really involved in? Like you might think you're doing good, but you are actually a willing participant in essentially a demonic army. You just don't know how you're being used. And ignorance is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. I mean, that's what's the first thing Jesus Christ said? Don't be deceived.
Yeah.
Don't be. It was a
Over and
first
over.
message.
Yeah.
Do not be deceived.
And what is it? Rejecting the truth will be answered with anger and wrath. So the truth is out there. It has been out there. People just accept it or reject it. And you can reject it if you want. You don't have to accept it as the truth. But if you reject it, it's clear what the payment for that is. Right? Anger and wrath. Well, think about what that means for a minute.
Yeah, I've got a
a
buddy who's he just opened up his own investment banking firm. He was a VP at a major bank, and look, everyone's a VP at a bank. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. He was a real VP. I mean, he was had a department. Super smart guy. Goes to church every Sunday like clockwork. He actually ended up seeing the Anatomy of a Great Deception movie, and I've gotten this reaction from two people in my entire life. I'm sure there are more, but they didn't make these comments didn't make their way back to me. His comment was, "Yeah, I saw the movie, and I'm just not a conspiracy theorist." Not that you need to see that movie and agree with it to get to heaven, but if you're that close-minded,
outwardly reject it. Yeah.
I'm like, ooh,
we know people like that.
like
I know
the
people
cognitive
like that.
dissonance going on in your head. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't
We're gonna
get
have
it.
fervent Christians make comments to me like, "Well, that's way too much conspiracy."
Oh, right, exactly.
And I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. That's odd coming from someone who
Yeah.
believes in things you can't see. What do you mean it's too much conspiracy? What do you talk? It's just shut. That's it. Light switch. Draw the shades. Shut the door.
Yeah, it's kind of
never. Don't even.
I find it
it's
to
crazy.
be kind of fantastic that you can believe the things of the Bible, but we're far fetched.
Yeah, it's way too much conspiracy for someone who believes in stuff that you can't see.
yeah.
This to me, but it goes to show you though that you can be.
But again, I mean, at least he's
A Christian.
closed-minded on the right subject. Okay, I mean, if you're gonna pick something to be closed-minded about, be closed-minded about the stuff that's gonna get you to heaven.
I guess so. Yeah,
You know, I
sure,
mean, his
sure.
soul's taken care of. That's for sure.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm completely with you. I find it to be ironic that you believe wholeheartedly and fervently in every word in the Bible, and you think the stuff we're talking about is crazy.
Yeah, it's too much conspiracy. Oh, really? Too much, huh? Well, that's funny because what we're talking about here is pure conspiracy. Right? It's the biggest conspiracy of all time.
Well, and
It
I mean,
is.
so
I
many
mean,
of the-
that's what, like, some people think 9/11, that's the biggest
No, it's
conspiracy
not.
in history. And for a while, I thought the same thing, too. But it was early on in my I was just like, wait a minute. This is just the tip of the iceberg. You think they set up this whole system just to do 9/11 to go, what, get some oil or to get some
Now,
rights
now
removed?
everybody's retired.
Like, you have to understand, this is part of a mess. It's what J. Edgar Hoover said. The person comes up against a conspiracy so large that they can't believe it exists.
Yeah.
And it really, at the end of the day, it's real. There really is a conspiracy. And it's not
And
not
we live in it.
it's not just about humans. I mean, we're in the middle of a conspiracy of supernatural powers where one is trying to overthrow the other, and we are both the pawns and the prize in this game.
Yeah, it's like move, counter move, move, counter move.
All
move,
throughout it.
counter
Now that's
move.
how I look at it. Everything's
it's what it
so
is.
much more black and white. It's hard to explain, but like I see it everywhere now. Like not that I want to be like this negative, always looking for problems kind of guy, but it's like when I see certain things happening on TV or I read something, all of a sudden I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
demonic
Yeah.
operation.
Yeah, totally.
Well, it's totally. I mean, we're totally living the Matrix, man. I mean, seriously.
That's a really good analogy for it.
I mean, I thought that movie was great when I watched it. Okay, but now, I mean, like I said, we're living it. We're seeing, we're not seeing numbers. We're seeing the pictures, man.
Yeah, no, I took the same thing out of that movie the first time I watched it. Actually,
I have not had a chance to rewatch it since you told me to watch it.
I did the first time I heard the twist on it about the whole, being saved by a hybrid, the Antichrist take on it. Hooper was the first time I heard about that. I just for myself took out of it, and not in its entirety, right? Just like some of the stuff in the movie, like the bulk of it, things that were said, one-liners that Morpheus threw out there, the whole concept of being unplugged from the Matrix. Like I took that as essentially life here. I mean, it is a reflection of life as a human being on Earth. So if you're plugged in to the Matrix, right, It's perfectly described in that movie. Where you just kind of, you know,
Just go along, do
you
your
go
thing.
along, and then when the one guy is sitting there and he's eating that steak, and he's like, you
Cypher.
know, I know this this steak's not real, but I take a bite of it and it tastes great. All these things, it's juicy, blah blah blah, and that is exactly correct. That's actually 100% accurate. That steak isn't real.
The metaphors are unbelievable.
I mean, we go eat the food we're eating isn't real. This table, the chairs, we talk about this. That none of this is real, right? So it's exactly. But as soon as you unplug and you're what we call awake, right? Just like what happens to them, they're walking down a street and they're seeing all the people, the cars, the buildings, but they know that what they're seeing isn't real. And who's always on their tail? Who's always on their tail? Well, the agents, right? But this is, you know, demons. You can make all these comparisons. It is no different for people like us, where we know, although we're being protected, but we know that these things are on our tail, man. They are on us all the time, 24/7, when we sleep, when we're awake, because they want us back. They want to plug us back in. But it's not possible. Once you're unplugged, you're out. That's it. You're out.
Well, if you think most of the big budget movies that come out of Hollywood have a biblical theme behind it, and superhero movies are all the rage these days. And I don't care if you're talking Superman, or if you're talking Neo, or if you're talking Batman or Iron Man or any of these guys. They're all metaphors of the Antichrist. Because what is Superman? What is Neo? They're these hybrid-like beings. Superman is like part human, part kryptonite, or whatever he
Krypton.
is. He's from another world.
Krypton.
He's got powers that are much greater than ours. But he's the
powered by
savior
the
of
yellow sun.
humanity. He's
That's
up
right.
against General Zod, you know. What is the Batman? Same thing. He's a human with enhanced abilities. Maybe his were bought with money, but nonetheless, he's this superhero. They don't even mask him so much. I mean, the tagline of the last movie, not the last one, but the prior one, which was "The Dark Knight Rises."
Yeah,
but who do you think the Dark Knight is again? Neo, same thing. He's part human, part computer program. When he's in the Matrix, again, a hybrid of sorts,
and referred to as the one, right?
He's the one. He's the savior.
That's right.
Neo new, and he's the savior of the new world. The new world.
Well, and the city's curiously called Zion, and it's interesting to revisit it with this.
Well, that's the
mindset.
conditioning we're getting. Is we don't realize this, but we're being preconditioned to praise a future savior, and it's interesting that the Bible talks about the fact that there will be this. Most likely, I don't think this is parts in the Bible, but I do believe this will be a hybrid of some sort, with some literally demonic Nephilim DNA combined with human DNA. Whoever this guy's going to look human, well-spoken, very handsome, dark hair, chiseled jawline. I mean, he's going to look like Superman. And we're going to, it all through a bunch of staged, like a show. A show will be put on for all of us, and we're going to believe that this guy is Jesus Christ, or is the sixth Buddha, or is the Mahdi, or is the... He will answer every religion on the planet in some way, and eventually that guy will go into the temple, which is being built as we speak. Little warning alarm there. That's if you want to talk about timelines. The third temple, which was prophesied to be rebuilt in the last days, they broke ground on it a few months back. So he's going to go into that building after it's built, 3.5 years into the tribulation, and he's going to say, well, I'm God. And that is when you got to get the hell out of Jerusalem. That second. That's where, right before the passage where God says, put your headphones on and just ask him to pipe in.
Yeah, come on in.
That's where God says, don't even go back to your house to get like your shoes. Head
Bug
for the
out.
hills. Because I think he's throwing some...
They really broke ground on that? That happened?
Could be a conspiracy, so it's not vetted. Well, hang on. I don't... But yeah, there is a commission that... There's a planning commission in Jerusalem, and they apparently broke ground on it earlier this year.
You know, they've
Well, what I do
they've
know-
got everything ready.
I was going to say,
That's
I
the
do
very-
know that's a fact.
Yeah, they've got everything ready. My friend Alex was telling me about it. He's really into the connection. He thinks it's really important as Christians that we learn more about our Judean roots.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, like, he just went on a mission to Africa with Jewish Voice Ministries.
Jewish Voice Ministries, yeah.
I mean, they do incredible work. And, you know, he sees us, we come from the same tree. I mean, Christians came from Jews. That's where we came from.
So did Muslims. I mean, we all
Well,
share
right,
the Old
right.
Testament.
Right.
And so he was telling me, we actually had a conversation about that last night, how they were showing him pictures and all this stuff. These people have been to Israel recently, that they got the stuff for the temple ready.
Yeah, ready
It
to
is
go.
dry cleaned, polished, and ready to go. So if they haven't broken ground yet, there's a plan to break ground soon.
This is a plan.
And anybody who doesn't realize that that's the coming of the end, the second that temple starts to be built, you deserve what you get. I don't know what else to tell you.
See, they're only building it because it says it in there. So.
You know what? I read
Of course.
I
to
read
make it true. Right?
I read something a couple of years ago that there was like a committee that was trying to rebuild it, and they didn't have funding. And then all of a sudden, like, they own some obscure land somewhere in Israel, and they just happened to find a bunch of gold on it. And that was, I read that somewhere probably like a year and a half ago.
There is something about gold and silver. Yeah, I'm just reading a headline from this. So this is 2015, and it looks like the altar that's going to be in this temple was rebuilt. Hang on, I don't want to bore
Yeah, I
you
forget the
guys.
name of the. There's an actual group, like a.
There is I think this is
kinda-
going to talk about it. It says, as Breaking Israel News reported earlier this month, the Temple Institute in Jerusalem
That's
has
what it is.
completed
Yeah.
the construction of the stone altar required for the sacrificial service in the Holy Temple. This is referring to the third temple prophesied in the Bible. In response to several inaccuracies in both the Hebrew and English media due to lack of information, the organization released its first detailed statement about the exciting event. Yeah. The altar was completed in late 2014. So this is like...
It's
this is
it's
happening
all
now.
current, yeah.
This is not something that's going to be in play 100 years from now. And officially inaugurated, so the altar was completed in late 2014 and officially inaugurated during the Institute's public kindling ceremony for the golden menorah on the seventh night of the Hanukkah holiday, which fell on December 22nd. December 22nd, 2015, so it was right after the blood moon tetrad. Contrary to what was reported earlier, the height of the altar... Okay, so now they're talking about the altar.
But why is it so secretive? Like, you should be able, like, if it was a Sears Tower, you'd be able to say, yeah, they broke ground on it. You know what I mean?
Because that's going to wake a ton of people
Yeah.
up.
Well, the
The
problem
minute
is,
so now not only was Israel predicted and that all these things were going to be back in play.
I mean, isn't that? I mean, I know where you're at. You know, I mean, we've had
right.
conversations. I know where you're at, and we got Jeff right behind you. We're going to get him there. But you know, I mean, come on, the things we're seeing that are going on. If that happens, I'm going to my knees, man.
well, the problem is that what's on the
Because there's
Temple
every
Mount.
reason for
Yeah,
people
right
to
now,
try and stop it.
if that is the real.
exactly, that's what I was going to say. Because
See,
they actually
we're up
think
against a
it-
master,
It may be
master
off
liar.
the side, and that happens to already be their territory. So they could literally, and it doesn't have to be. It could be this little room right here. It qualifies, right?
Look,
So
if they can
if
start
it-
the
dude,
schools.
You're
I'm
right.
with
You're
you,
right.
dude. If I see them starting to,
They break ground. I'm not going to work. I'm going to
it's
church.
Like, okay, it's yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's one of the things that hit home. Because I don't think this would have happened. Like, if you would have gone to a seminar in the 1970s and some guy asked an audience, you know, how many of you think the end of the world is going to be in the next 10 years? I don't know, but I'm guessing a couple people might have raised their hand. I'm guessing. So Russ Dizdar does these... He's like showing the audience, and he asks, how many of you think we're within 10
Well, I mean,
years?
they are at a Russ Dizdar show.
What's that?
that's
They
fair.
are at a Russ Dizdar show.
That's
Well,
that's
no,
fair.
this is an
But still.
audience that came to a. You're right. It is.
I mean, I'm
seminar.
not discounting the fact, you know, but I mean, you're at a seminar called The End of the World. How many people think the world's going to end soon?
Well, you know what?
Shocker.
Those seminars pull thousands of people
Yeah,
now.
you're right.
Was that seminar able to pull thousands of people in the 70s? I'm not sure
I don't know.
about that.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I've got doubts. Regardless of that, what's striking is he's in a room filled with people that obviously are interested and trying to learn the Bible. They're reading it. They understand it probably better than most other people do around the world. And he asks them, he's like, how many of you think we're like in the last 5 years? You know, or the last 10 years. And you got 2/3 of the audience raising their hand. Then he asks, how many of you think we're 5 years out before like this starts to get hairy? And half the audience is still raising their hand, kind of like your 91-year-old grandmother.
Right.
There is a feeling in the air, like something big is going to
eventually
happen. Exactly.
Everyone
Eventually,
feels it.
It comes down to it's the only thing that really makes any sense.
It's the only you can go about life in two ways. You can just call everything, just dismiss everything, just call it all crazy coincidence, conspiracy, whatever. Or you can actually take a look, is the Bible really at the end of the day true?
It's the only thing that makes
Because
any
maybe we
sense.
were fooled about things that were in there. Because
It's the only thing that makes sense.
You know what I was thinking about? Like how you were talking about something big's on the horizon. Like, it's so crazy. I feel like everyone notices. And when things like Orlando happen, and it really wasn't that big of a deal. Like, it definitely wasn't as big as Columbine. That just lets you know that something huge is getting ready to happen.
Right, we're desensitized.
'Cause, yeah, people were really shook up. Like Columbine happened. I was in high school. They gave us the day off. They're like, we just got to figure this out. You know what I mean? This happened. It was business as usual. This Orlando thing, and just the scale of it was much worse. But still, not too many people are really. So I think it's going to take something crazy to make.
It's going to be crazy,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
it is.
Okay, well that's a show for this week. So remember, have nothing to do with fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them.